Yo, what's good everyone? Today I'm going to be taking a first look here at this Week 13 NFL DraftKings main slate. Let's dive right into it. And like I always do here in these videos, I'm going to go position by position, highlighting the plays that are sticking out to me here early in the week, and then we'll wrap up the video by putting together a first look cash lineup and a first look tournament lineup. Now you probably noticed the background is different here today. I am recording on the road, visiting my family in Arizona. I will be here all week long, but I'll still have my normal content coming out. With that being said, let's dive into the quarterbacks. Right away at the top here, you can see we got Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and Lamar Jackson. Really don't need to convince you to play any one of those guys. I can't say I love the matchups for them this week. Jalen's got the best matchup going up against Baltimore, but overall, I think they're fine plays. But as we all know, the upside that they bring week in and week out, the ceiling that they bring is higher than any other quarterback, so they are going to be in play more weeks than not. Again, I don't really need to spend too much time on that. The first guy that I wanted to highlight here was Baker Mayfield. Going into Carolina, really good matchup here, divisional opponent, and he's got a healthy Mike Evans back, so I do like him at $6,600 on the tournament side of things. Really like Matthew Stafford here in this matchup against New Orleans. That secondary is not great. They traded away their best cornerback and Marshawn Lattimore at the deadline, and we know who to stack up with Stafford here. His top two pass catchers in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp makes it really easy to do a stack, and we can build a tournament lineup with that at the end of this video, run it back with a couple of New Orleans Saints players. And then the last quarterback that I wanted to highlight here was Justin Herbert. Obviously didn't get priced up with the Monday night game, and he's just still too cheap here in the mid 5K range. You can see that this offense for the Chargers has completely changed the way they play since the bye. He's thrown close to 30 times per game here over the last 5 weeks, hitting 17 plus DraftKings points in all 5 of those games, crushing value at this price of $5,600. Now moving on to the running backs here, and I'm kind of looking at 7K and above right now, and kind of starting with Kyren Williams and above. Look, we have to talk about Saquon Barkley. This guy is truly a menace. I can't say I like him in cash games this week going into Baltimore, but tournaments, we absolutely need to be talking about him. 36.9, 36.8, and 49.2 DraftKings points in 3 of his last 5 games. That can win you a tournament. But on the cash side of things, I actually prefer Joe Mixon here in this matchup against Jacksonville. Down week for Mixon last week for sure, but still heavily involved in the passing game. We know the rushing attempts are probably going to get closer to 20 in this game as well, so I do like him on the cash side of things, as well as Alvin Kamara in this matchup against Los Angeles. I think that we can play him in both cash and tournaments here. Hasn't been super consistent as of late in terms of DraftKings scoring, but I'm more so looking for the volume, and you can see his rushing attempts have been consistent. He's heavily involved in the passing game. That's why he's a cash game consideration. Kyren Williams is really interesting here. He has not been involved in the passing game the last 2 games, but I think he gets back on track this week. Not entirely sure why that has been, but overall $7,200 in that matchup against New Orleans, it did stick out to me. But again, 7K and above here, we know who the top tier running backs are in the NFL. Let's get into the 6 and 5K range here and highlight some of the value that was sticking out to me. I think this is a week that we can go back to Chuba Hubbard in this matchup against Tampa Bay. I know with Bryce Young under center, we don't love Chuba as much. We really preferred Andy Dalton, but Bryce Young has actually looked pretty decent here in his last few games, and that has translated to Chuba playing well. 21.2, 28.9, and 15 DraftKings points here in his last 3 games. The rushing attempts are there. I'd like his involvement in the passing game to be a little more consistent, but again, at $6,700, I do think he's a fine play this week. And then Bucky Irving in that same game, I know he's still kind of splitting carries there with Rachaad White, but this guy is so explosive. It's only a matter of time before he takes over as the bell cow back in this offense for Tampa Bay. I get why they're kind of splitting them up right now. You're trying to make a playoff push. You want these guys both healthy going into the playoffs. But it's going to be Bucky over Rachaad White before we know it. And you can see here his rushing attempts have been fine, but heavily involved in the passing game. That's resulted to some nice DraftKings points here in his last 5 games. And at $5,800, I think he's a cash game play and for sure a tournament play. Now, diving into the wide receivers here, you can see we got some top-tier elite plays on this slate in Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase. But honestly, everyone, the 3 wide receivers below them really stuck out to me for this week. Nico Collins going up against Jackson Jacksonville, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp going up against New Orleans. And again, we'll build a tournament lineup here at the end of this video, kind of highlighting that game between the Rams and Saints. We'll stack it up on the Rams side, run it back with a couple of Saints. So that's kind of my tier 1 of wide receiver plays this week, Cooper Kupp and up. But again, let's get into some of the value that was sticking out to me in the 5 and 6K range. First being Mike Evans here in this matchup against Carolina. 6 targets in his first game back after missing 5 weeks. That number is only going to go up going forward. We know he's the #1 pass catcher and wide receiver in this offense. And again, really good spot there against Carolina. T. Higgins, I think he's going to be cash game viable and for certainly tournament viable. You can see his targets there, 10, 14, 7, 8, and 13 in his last 5 games. I know he's wide receiver #2 in this offense, but that volume is beautiful for a guy priced here in the mid 6K range. And then scrolling down a little bit off of that, Ladd McConkey, I don't know if we can consider him for cash quite yet. I wish the targets were closer to double digits to get there, but he's certainly tournament viable, and honestly, he's got such a good target to reception rate that we probably can consider him in cash. I do like that matchup there against Atlanta. Let's scroll down here into the 5K range, and Brian Thomas Jr. against Houston really sticks out to me. I do believe that T-Law is going to be back this week, and if we go back to week 4 here, Thomas had 9 targets, 6 catches, 86 receiving yards, scored a touchdown, and close to 22 DraftKings points in that matchup. Now they're back home here this week, so I think he's sneaky at $5,500. And then Michael Pittman stuck out to me, and largely due to his targets here in his last 2 games with 8 and 7. Again, I don't know if we can go there in cash, but if he is going to be getting close to 8 targets per game at $5,200, I think we at least need to be considering it. Next, we got the tight ends, and the elite tight end options on this slate are not great. Taysom Hill here is priced as the 2nd highest tight end at $5,000, and I know he just put up a 46-burger, but I'm not going to spend that money for that guy. I kind of like the 4K range here. Mid 4K range with Cade Otton really sticks out to me. Sure, 8 and 3 targets, maybe not the best in his last 2 games, but prior to that, this guy was seeing double-digit targets week in and week out. Sure, Mike Evans is back now. He's the #1 pass catcher in this offense, but we're getting Otton here at a $1,000 discount compared to his last 2 games in a really good matchup, so I will take advantage of that. TJ Hawkinson saw 9 targets last week. I think he's going to be a fine play against Arizona, as well as Dallas Goedert, especially if Devontae Smith does not play again this week. Again, this mid 4K range looks really nice here. Even Hunter Henry in this matchup against Indianapolis, you can see the targets are there week in and week out with Drake May under center. Let's get into the 3K range here. I think we can go back to Zach Ertz. He has been super consistent with Jaden Daniels, starting to get involved in the end zone, or red zone rather now. He's got touchdowns in back-to-back games. If we're really looking to save some money, and we need to keep an eye on this week, it's going to be Josh Oliver of the Minnesota Vikings. He did not play last week, but this is a guy who sees around 3 to 5 targets per game as the 2nd tight end in this offense. Probably going to get us anywhere from 6 to 10 DraftKings points, but at $2,800, I have no problem with that. And then wrapping up the positional plays here with the defenses, and this is a gross slate for defenses, everyone. I don't love the 3K range here this week. Maybe the Vikings at $3,300. You got the Commanders priced at $3,400. That's gross. 2K range isn't beautiful either, so honestly, everyone, at my first look here, I was like, I just kind of want to pull with the Jags here at $2,300 and move on from it. Alright everyone, now we're going to put together a first look cash lineup here, but before we do that, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Every like, comment, and sub on this channel truly does help me out. Let's build this first look cash lineup here. We're going to start at the quarterback position. I'm going to save some money with Justin Herbert, far too cheap there at $5,600 in my opinion, which is going to allow us to spend up here at the running back position for Joe Mixon. And actually, I want to save some money here with my second RB and put in Bucky Irving. All right, $5,100 left over per player. Let's spend up here a little bit for our wide receivers. Let's go Puka Nacua. Let's go T. Higgins. And let's put in McConkey there. I know he said he was kind of teetering on the edge of being a cash game play, but I like the stack there with Justin Herbert. Tight end, we have to save some money. So let's go with Josh Oliver, hoping he plays this week. Defense will just save money there with the Jaguars. $5,200 for a flex. That's going to be a wide receiver, maybe even a tight end, but I typically don't put a tight end in my cash lineup. Michael Pittman is right there at $5,200, just like McConkey, kind of teetering on the edge of being a cash game play, but for a first look, I don't mind this. And then my favorite part of this video, putting together a first look tournament lineup. Talked about what we're going to do here already, stacking up this game between LA and the New Orleans Saints. So let's go with the top two pass catchers here in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. We'll run it back there with Alvin Kamara. And you know what? Let's save some money here at the tight end position as well and put in Jawan Johnson. All right, so $4,600 left over per player. I am going to put in Bucky again, and let's do a little mini game stack here. So we got Bucky on the Bucs side of things. Let's put in Adam Thielen on the Carolina side of things, do a little mini game stack. Let's just put in the Jags again here at $2,300. That gives me $55 left over for a flex, which is Brian Thomas Jr. For a first look tournament lineup, I don't mind that either. All right, everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that.